Welcome. I would like to welcome you to yet another episode of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you do me a favor, please subscribe to wherever you're listening. Please subscribe to wherever you're watching. It definitely means a lot to me. So doomsday has happened. And when I say doomsday, I mean Kevin Durant has requested a trade out of Brooklyn. Now you're thinking to yourself, damn, wait, he just went 3 years ago. And you would be right. 2-3 years ago. You know what this whole situation, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Brooklyn, hell, you can even throw in James Harden and Ben Simmons. This Brooklyn situation now is a prime example of a litany. Ooh, I'm using big words. Prime, litany. Is a prime example of a litany of poor decisions. You see, that's all this is. All this Kevin Durant requesting a trade, Brooklyn, all this is poor decisions. El Poro decisions. I'm sure that's not how you say poor decisions in Spanish, but I'm going to roll with it. El Poro decisions. You see poor decisions throughout this whole situation. And as a basketball fan, as a sports fan in general, the writing was there. You see, one thing that this situation also shows is talent supersedes all. Now, usually when you hear talent supersedes all, that's usually talking about someone that has off the field or off the court issues. We'll talk about Miles Bridges in a second, but someone that has off the field or off the court issues. And usually when you say talent supersedes all, that means they're going to get another opportunity because they're just talented, not saying, you know, it's never really in the context of what we're talking about here with Brooklyn. When I say talent supersedes all in this Brooklyn situation, we should have seen this coming. We should have seen this coming from day one because the poor decisions started rolling in day one. Let's talk about it. There are 3 parts to talk about. There's the Kevin Durant part, there's the Kyrie Irving part, and there's the Brooklyn Nets part. Let's start with the most obvious one, which is Kevin Durant. The poor decision, in my opinion, started when you left Golden State for Brooklyn. Now, I'm not saying it's a poor decision because you're not. I am all for player empowerment. I'm all for players doing what they want to do. So when I say poor decision, if you wanted to go play in Brooklyn, go right ahead. You did, clearly. But you look at that organization. It's very rare. If you look throughout the NBA, just today, it's very rare for an organization to have everything buttoned up or constantly make the right decisions. Now, it's easy to say that Golden State is that organization clearly now, seeing as though they're coming off winning a championship. But you can even look in the 2 years that they did make the 2 years that they didn't make the playoff after Kevin Durant left. It really wasn't because they weren't talented as much as you had Klay Thompson was hurt. Steph Curry got hurt. And of course, you needed to figure out, sometimes it takes teams time, especially teams at the top, which is why Golden State is still considered a dynasty, even though they didn't make the playoffs those 2 years. Sometimes it takes time to get it right. You get D'Angelo Russell, you trade D'Angelo Russell because you realize, D'Angelo Russell's not going to work with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. You trade him, get Andrew Wiggins, a lesser version of Kevin Durant, but a better version of Harrison Barnes. You get some draft picks. You get Kuminga. You get Wiseman. It's very hard. It's very rare. Look at the league. It's very rare to see an organization have it buttoned up. So when you're in an organization or you see an organization that is buttoned up and you are part of said organization, it wouldn't, in my opinion, it wouldn't be the smartest to leave said organization to go to an organization that hasn't proven to have it buttoned up. In fact, if you look at the history of Brooklyn, they have a litany of poor decisions, starting pretty much with trading their entire future pretty much to Boston for Paul Pierce, or an old Paul Pierce, an old Kevin Garnett. I believe Deron Williams was in that trade, and maybe Gerald Wallace too. Gerald Wallace. So you're going from an organization in Golden State that has it all buttoned up. You have one of the top players in the league in Steph Curry. You have one of the best defensive players in the league in Draymond Green. You have one of the best plug-and-play players with Klay Thompson. Now, I understand, it's being the man. I get that. And I get wanting a new challenge. So I'm not here saying he made a dumb decision. I'm never going to disrespect someone saying you made a dumb decision. But you have to ask yourself, we'll talk about Bradley Beal a little bit later, but you have to ask yourself, what is the most important? Is winning a championship or winning multiple championships more important? Is money more important? Is happiness more important? You have to figure out what's more important. And it seems like for Kevin Durant, finding something new, playing with your best friend at the time, or playing with your friend, playing with your friend Kyrie Irving, that was more important than staying in an organization that you could build with. And, you just got 2 championships. You could have got more. So in my opinion, that's poor decision number 1. No, it's not. That's not a poor decision, because you did what you were supposed to do in Golden State. You did what you were supposed to do. You went there. You got 2 championships. You got 2 Finals MVP. The first poor decision, in my opinion, it wasn't leaving Golden State, as much as at this point in the story, you're tied to Stephen Curry. You're tied to Stephen Curry. You, Steph Curry, are clearly the faces are clearly the 2 best players in Golden State. You leave him to attach yourself to Kyrie Irving. That is mistake number 1. Now, don't get me wrong. We know that Kyrie Irving is an immensely talented player. We know Kyrie Irving, in my opinion, will go down as the greatest handler of the basketball we've ever seen. We know this. We know he is a great under-the-rim finisher. We know his shooting ability. We know all that. But we also know the history of Kyrie Irving, as far as asking, I think, the only player in NBA history to demand a trade away from LeBron James. Then we know about the debacle that happened with Boston. And then, of course, we know now with Brooklyn, some of the decisions that he was making with Brooklyn. But that's mistake number 1 for Kevin Durant, in my opinion. It's not the fact of leaving Golden State. It's the fact of separating yourself from Steph Curry, who is, in my opinion, one of the greatest players we've ever seen. Most people's opinion, one of the greatest players we've ever seen, and actually one of the best teammates you've ever seen. We've heard nothing but great stories when we talk about Steph Curry as a teammate. Hell, you can even see Steph Curry, who is, again, go down. A lot of people argue right now, is he top 10, top 5, whatever, in all time. He took I'm not going to say lesser, but he took the reins of the team and said, you know what, I understand who the best player is. Let me minimize some of my game to elevate some of KD's, and of course it got them 2 championships. Would have been 3 if everyone stayed healthy. That 2019. But you separate yourself from Steph, who was a sure thing, one of the best teammates, at least on record, that we've seen. And then you go to Kyrie Irving, who has a history of not being the easiest person to be teammates with. Now, understand, again, the talent. Now, understand he's your friend. But there's a reason why they say sometimes the worst person to roommate with is your friend. Now, I'm not saying roommate, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving lived together. But you can kind of use that analogy for playing basketball together. Sometimes some of my best friends are god awful at basketball. I would never pick them up. That's how competitive I am. Some of my best friends are terrible at basketball. Terrible. Devereaux is god awful at basketball. Cass is god awful at basketball. Never picked them a day in my life. But they're still my friends. But I just know that is not the lane that I want to attach myself to when we talk about my friends. Kevin Durant, even though he's supremely talented, which is Kyrie, he's may not be the best teammate. That's mistake number one. And actually, that's kind of where the mistakes, that's kind of where the mistakes end for Kevin Durant. That's a lie. Well, the last mistake is kind of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. There's a reason why there is a hierarchy in teams. There's a reason why there is for lack of a better term, tier system in teams. And what I mean by tier system, there's a reason why there is a owner, GM, coach, players. There is a reason why there is a hierarchy. It keeps things in order. It keeps things the way that they're supposed to be. The GM, we all know the owner because he's the owner of the team. The owner usually has the most say. And then, of course, you have the GM. Then, of course, you have the head coach. And you have the players. Nobody ever says that the coach is better at basketball than the players. No one ever says that. There's no one that should ever believe that Greg Popovich is a better basketball player than Tim Duncan or a better basketball player than Kawhi Leonard. No one should ever think, even though he has a lot of rings, that Steve Kerr is a better basketball player than Steph Curry. No one should ever think that, ever. But like a job, people have quote unquote assignments. People know what their job is. And a player's job is to play. A head coach's job is to put you in the best position to win. Whether it's schemes, whether it's drawing up plays. The coach's job is to put you in the best opportunity to win. Or put you in the best opportunity to win. GMs, mostly, GM along with some of the head coach and along with some of the owner, their job is to construct the roster. Try to get the most people or the best chemistry. Try to get that. That's the GM's job. We talk about drafts. We talk about free agencies. We talk about trades. The GM's job is to construct the team. Now, of course, the player's job is to execute what's supposed to be done, but GM's job and owner's job is pretty much construct the team. When a player comes in, actually, you know what? When a player comes in and says they should have a say-so they feel they should have a say-so in the team's decisions as far as who they should bring in, who they should take out. That's not uncommon. That's not uncommon at all. Especially if you're a top-tier player, if you're a top-tier talent, you want to know who you're going to be playing with. Now, the reason why I said that was a poor decision for Kevin Durant's situation is Kevin Durant has already come out saying that he doesn't really want to be a leader. He said that in OKC. He said that in Golden State, and now he kind of said that, or he's kind of demonstrated that in Brooklyn. Nothing wrong with that. Not everyone's a leader. Sometimes They're supremely talented followers, but not everyone's a leader. But when you make the proclamation that you want to be, you want to be the person to make, or you want to help make decisions for the team. Yet and still, you then, don't talk to the team. You ghost the team after the season. You also have demonstrated that you don't want to be the leader. So it does not work. It doesn't. It kind of contradicts themselves. And at that point, the team doesn't know who to follow. Because I've never seen a team with a laid back leader. That's a lie. Because you have Tim Duncan. But what I mean by that is I've never seen a team. But Tim Duncan's never also. I don't think he's ever come out and said I feel I should have personnel decisions. Not saying he didn't have personnel decisions, but I've never seen him or heard him come out and say that. I never seen Steph. Never seen some of the great players say, "Hey, I need organizational decisions. I need help. That should go through me." Not saying it doesn't. Don't get me wrong. Do not hear me saying Kevin Durant's the only person in NBA history that's ever been a superstar and had and some of the decisions gone through him. But I haven't really seen someone outwardly speak it, especially with a new head coach, a first-time head coach in Steve Nash. Now let's talk about Kyrie Irving. There's no point of talking about what happened in Cleveland. That's over with. There's really no point of talking about what happened in Boston. That's over with. However, those happened. So it's on your resume. So you can't be surprised if people do bring that up in situations like this. Now, I will never sit here and say that Kyrie Irving is not a talented player. Never. In fact, I will be one of the people to big up Kyrie as far as talent. Kyrie is one of the most talented, one of the most skilled players the league has ever seen. So I will never disrespect Kyrie as saying he's not a talented player. But in this case, Kyrie as a player is not the problem. In fact, every single case, again, I'm not going to really discuss what happened in Cleveland. I'm not really going to discuss what happened in Boston. But where it went wrong in Cleveland, in Boston, and now in Brooklyn has nothing to do with Kyrie the player. It has everything to do with Kyrie the teammate. I understand that everyone's different. Don't get me wrong. I understand that everybody is different. I understand that everyone grooves and moves to the beat of their own drum. And of course, I wouldn't expect everyone to be the same. That's everyone comes from different walks of life. Everyone sees life differently. So that's not a problem. But when you are in a team setting, there's people that have hooped, people that have played football, people that have been in a team setting. You understand that there is a level of sacrifice. Sometimes you don't want to do something, but it's for the betterment of the team. Sometimes there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. Sometimes you're hurt. A lot of times you're hurt, especially towards the end of the season. Most players are hurt. Now, injured means you can't play, but hurt, something's hurting, something's ailing. But you can, that's taking one for the team because you're playing in a team setting. I told you this whole situation is littered with poor decisions. I talked about KD's. Now let's talk about Kyrie's. Kyrie, it started day one with Brooklyn. When you have a new head coach, first time head coach, in Steve Nash, you don't know if Steve Nash could be the next Steve Kerr, or he could just be a poor coach. You don't know. But one thing you do not do is pretty much day one undermine a first-time head coach. I don't know if people remember. I know it's on Google, or I know it's on YouTube. Go figure it. Go find it. I don't know if people remember one of the first press conferences that Kyrie had, when he pretty much was saying that coaching is not important. This team doesn't really need a coach. And he, along with the GM and the owner, are going to work together to build this roster and make decisions for this roster. He, along with Kevin Durant, now this was Kyrie's words, that's why I didn't put this under Kevin Durant's, but Kyrie said, coaching is, we don't really need a coach. We're very intelligent players. We don't need a coach. When you have a high IQs like Kevin Durant, when you have high IQs like Kyrie Irving, we don't need a coach. And Kyrie, along with the GM, along with the owner, they're going to get together and make decisions for the team. That was like day one. Again, that you should have seen. No one. There's a lot of people. Don't get me wrong. I played college basketball. Now, I never played in the NBA. I never played professionally. But I played college basketball. And you best believe that there are players that think that they are smarter than the coach. There are players that think that they can coach the team better than the coach because they're the ones on the floor. They're the ones that, the ball goes through their hands. There's players that think that sometimes a coach can draw up something and it not work. And in the back of a player's mind, like, yo, I would have drew up a better play than that. I'm sure that happens everywhere. But it's different when you feel that way sometimes, or when you say it to the public day one. One thing I will say, there's a lot of players, like I said, that believe that they're smarter than the coach. But there's also usually a level of respect for that coach. Like, we respect you. We still call you coach. We still love you, coach. Coach makes you run like there's nobody's business. But there's still love there. Coach will yell at you, curse at you, call you all types of names out the book. But you understand that there's a level of love there, and you respect that. You should never, you will never, there should never be a time where a coach gets undermined, especially in the media, especially before game one. Kyrie's first mistake. Oh, also, like I said, when you kind of goes back to when Kevin Durant said that he needs, or he feels that he should have some say-so in who he plays with, which I completely understand. Kyrie, when he says, we, as far as him, the GM, the head coach, the owner, we're going to get together and build a team, or build the right team. At that point, you're saying you're saying that you are going to be one of the higher ups. You're putting responsibility on yourself that you may not really understand comes with that, especially when you have the track record that Kyrie Irving has. So then life happens. Things unforeseen to us happen. You have the insurrection on January 6th. You have COVID. You have injuries. You have the vaccine mandate. Things happen. And because of things happening, a lot of those things prevented Kyrie from playing. whether that was, I completely forgot that Kyrie Irving took like 2 weeks off because he felt some type of way about the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol. 2 weeks. I also forgot. Now, I knew Kyrie didn't go to the bubble. For people that don't remember, during COVID, there was a bubble. That's when the Los Angeles Lakers won a championship. They went to Orlando. They were in the bubble for a couple months. Bada bing, bada boom. I remembered that Kyrie Irving did not go to the bubble. I did remember that. One thing that I forgot, though, was he was actively vocal about players should not go, knowing that could completely derail and destroy the player bargaining agreement, or the bargaining agreement that the players have with the NBA. Completely destroy that. I completely forgot that he was actively telling people, hey, no, you do not go. And then you get to the most recent poor decision, in my opinion, and that is the vaccine situation. Now, again, I've said this time and time again on this podcast, I am not here to tell somebody what to do with their bodies. If you want to get the vaccine, at this point, if you have the vaccine, you have it. If you don't have it, you're not going to get it. That's pretty much how it is at this point. But again, it goes back to the team setting. There's sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to do for the team. Now, I understand that the vaccine thing is kind of bigger than that, but let's look at another situation of a player that did not want to get the vaccine, did not want to get vaccinated, ended up getting vaccinated, and was a very important piece to his team ultimately winning, and that was Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins was very vocal saying that he did not want to get the vaccine. I don't know if you guys remember that. Andrew Wiggins was very vocal and saying, I'm not really trying to get the vaccine, spiritual reasons, this, that, and the third. He even appealed and signed up, or he tried to get it, he tried to get an exemption. They were like, nah. Now, of course, Andrew Wiggins hasn't made the same amount of money as Kyrie Irving has made in the league and off the court. And the money would have, the loss of money would have hit him differently. But Andrew Wiggins got the vaccine. And we see how important Andrew Wiggins was to Golden State ultimately winning the championship this year. He was their second best player the entire final. In fact, he was the second best player in the finals next to Steph out of both teams. Now, I also understand that Kyrie Irving's situation was different, seeing as though you're living in New York. It was a weird rule that they didn't allow you to play home games because you're in the state of New York, state of New York. It was weird, but that's what it was. So Kyrie does not decide to get vaccinated, which means that he can only, at first he didn't play any games. There was if you can't play home, there's no point in playing away. So bada bing, bada boom, you're not playing at all. But then they realized, oh shoot, we're kind of falling in the standings. Kyrie, come on. Now in this, there's a James Harden aspect. And I think that Kyrie Irving's decision not to play was one of the largest reasons why James Harden decided at that point, this is not what it's cracked up to be. James Harden forced his way out of Houston to play alongside Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And once you saw that wasn't going to happen because of Kyrie Irving, you got to think about it. How the roster was constructed. You have three top people: Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and then everybody just falls in line. You understand that with Kyrie being gone, that kind of heightens the possibility of injury because you're carrying more. And you have to play more, which then you're not going to be as fresh going into the playoffs. So James Harden was like, oh, no, I'm out. Forced his way to Philly for Ben Simmons, which shouts out to Jalen Rose. I don't know how the hell Ben Simmons passed the physical, but then had to get surgery as soon as he went to the new team. I don't know. But back to Kyrie. Kyrie Irving, your decision not to play not only derailed the chemistry for this team or for Brooklyn, because I think you only played like 23 games or something this year. Derailed the chemistry. It had a big part of you losing a major piece to the team in James Harden. James Harden, there is footage. Look at Sacramento Kings game. Look at the Detroit Pistons game. James Harden quit on this team. He was like, you know what? I ain't doing this, bro. No. A lot of that was due to Kyrie Irving's just not being there. And then, by the way, I failed to mention that Brooklyn was the only team this year that did not win a playoff game. The only team that made the playoffs that didn't win a playoff game. There are teams that had to make the play-in or won the play-in. I think Brooklyn was one of them. Or maybe not. I don't know. But I will say that Brooklyn did not win a game in the playoffs. The only team that got swept. So now we get to prison time. Kyrie Irving was kind of holding out with the team, putting a lot of cryptic stuff. And then, without talking to anybody, gives out a list. Now, this is all speculation. I didn't hear it from Kyrie's mouth, but they put out a list of 5 or 6 teams that he'll go to. And then, boom, out of nowhere, without telling the organization and without telling Kevin Durant, he opts in. He says, I'm running the back. Just poor decisions all around. Poor decisions all around. And then you get to Brooklyn. Brooklyn has made huge poor decisions. Huge. This whole situation is not just a Kyrie Irving problem. I know Stephen A. Smith said it falls on the feet of Kyrie. It's not just Kyrie. It's not just Kevin Durant. It's a 3-team race. It's a 3-person race. Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and the Brooklyn organization. There's a reason why there is a hierarchy and teams, you want to stay with that. My problem is, and where Brooklyn, in my opinion, made the biggest mistake, is you gave somebody that has demonstrated that they do not do well with power the most power in the organization. Yes, you have the owner. Yes, you have the GM. But you gave Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, you gave 2 players, one of which both supremely talented as players, but one of which has pretty much come out and said he doesn't want to be the leader. He wants to just play. He just wants to hoop. And another one who has a track record of making poor teammate decisions. You gave those 2 players power. And those 2 players immense power over the entire organization, especially when you have a new head coach. We can also talk about roster construction. How you have all these players outside of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and we can throw in James Harden. I understand about the mid-level exception or whatever, but you don't have a good roster. The roster was terrible. They had great players, Kevin Durant, Kyrie, James Harden at the time, but you didn't have a good roster. And also, it goes back to my original point. You did what they tried to do is they tried to allow talent to supersede everything. Because Kyrie and KD are super talented players, arguably top 10 skilled, both of them. They ignored the fact that, oh, shoot, we have to build a roster. They ignored the fact that neither one of them play defense. Kevin Durant can play defense in a good system, as we saw in Golden State, but neither one of them really played defense. In fact, the best defender that you have on that team is Nick Claxton. They saw what Kevin Durant did. You saw what Kevin Durant in Brooklyn did. Yo, they won one playoff series in the entire time that they have been together as a team. With Kevin Durant, with Kyrie Irving the entire time, they won one playoff series. And I think they've been completely healthy for one of them, and that's the one that they won. Now, yes, I understand if Kevin Durant's big toe or pinky toe was not on the line, they could have won the finals, but they didn't. And even in that series, James Harden, his hamstring was out. He was laboring. Kyrie Irving, he was hurt. He twisted his ankle. And it was just Kevin Durant, pretty much. So, I'm with Tim Legler. Tim Legler said, yo, this is one of the most epic failures we've ever seen. I agree with Tim. When you have players, two of these players, Kevin Durant, James Harden, were awarded or were selected to the All NBA 75 greatest players of all time, were selected to that team. And a lot of people argue that Kyrie Irving should have been on that team. And you only win one playoff series. And now this has the opportunity to just go. Well, there's already went left. You're losing one of the greatest talents to ever play the game because of poor decisions. I don't know. I mean, you heard Brooklyn. You heard Phoenix and Miami were on top of Kevin Durant's list, which just so happened to be number one overall or number one seeds last year. I think it's because you traded for Ben Simmons. I don't think that they're gonna have to do something with Bam. If he goes to Miami, I don't think they can trade for Bam without trading Ben Simmons because of the contracts. As well as DeAndre Ayton, I don't think that they can do that, and they're not really interested in DeAndre Ayton, but they're going to have to do some 3-team deals if they want to get Kevin Durant. I will say this, though, and Bobby Marks, shouts out to Bobby Marks, he said this. He said and Adrian Wojnarowski, this is an interesting time, not only for Kevin Durant, but for small and big market teams. This is the first time. Kevin Durant, if you're getting Kevin Durant, he's on a 4-year deal. You're getting somebody, especially for small market teams, you're getting someone that you probably never would be able to get. Now, you do run the risk of getting an upset Kevin Durant, and he could force his way out maybe again. Who knows? But a small market team can get Kevin Durant. Portland can get Kevin Durant. I don't know. Any team, if Brooklyn says yes, can get Kevin Durant. Hell, Washington can get Kevin Durant. So it's interesting to see where he goes, but he will be going somewhere. And I do think that Brooklyn is going to take their time because it's like, why? I mean, we need to get the right. This is probably one of the most coveted probably one of the biggest trade or players ever that could be traded. So I can understand that whatever they getting. What what the Lakers got from Anthony Davis, it should be more. What you're getting for Kevin Durant should be more than what the Lakers got for Anthony Davis. So I'm curious to see, what's going to happen, but poor decisions. When you look at the Brooklyn Nets and where they are now, it's poor decision. Oh, and trust and believe is over with for Brooklyn and Kyrie. I know Brooklyn looked at this whole situation, and they put a lot of it on Kyrie, which I understand. So there's no way in heaven or hell I would want to play. I would have Kyrie play, especially if I'm an organization that blames Kyrie for what's going on here. Yeah, nah. Kyrie's done as far as for Brooklyn. I don't know where he'll go, or I don't know whether, because you opted in and it kind of feels like the market for Kyrie is very dry. I don't know where he's going. I know the Lakers are very desperate in getting Kyrie Irving because they need shooting, but of course they're probably going to need another team or 3-team because, the Russell Westbrook situation. I don't know, but I know that it's crazy that we're looking up today, and it looks like Brooklyn will be losing Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. Poor decisions. They always catch up. No matter when, no matter how. Poor decisions will always catch up to you. And unfortunately, it is caught up for Brooklyn. So, let's move forward. We're still in free agency. And, some big names. Nikola Jokic got paid the richest contract in NBA history. I think it was like $261 million. Which, one thing I've seen is nobody. It's kind of like the Patrick Mahomes deal. I think he had like 10 years for like $500 million. People, not one person has said, "Damn, Patrick Mahomes don't deserve that." It's funny, man. You heard the entire time, like when the playoffs were going on, and of course the Nuggets lost 4-1 to Golden State, and they also lost the year prior. And you just hear, Nikola Jokic is shouldn't be the MVP, this, that, and the third. How's the MVP losing? Only win one game. But I haven't heard not one person say Nikola Jokic doesn't deserve this contract. So I think that's respect there. Nikola Jokic, he deserves it. Now, that doesn't. I think what a lot of people do is they tie X player has the biggest contract in history means that the X player is the greatest player. No, I do think that you get what you negotiate and you get what a team can offer. So, and I think Nikola Jokic will go down. I think he's one of the most skilled players ever, and he definitely deserves it. 2-time MVP, 2 back-to-back MVP. He has been the cornerstone for he's been this cornerstone for Denver's, and a lot of people always put Denver as one of the teams to beat because they have Nikola Jokic. Now, of course, when Jamal Murray comes back, when Michael Porter Jr. comes back, that's what they're holding out hope for. But you have Nikola Jokic, who, like I said, is a 2 back-to-back MVP. He definitely deserves it. So shouts out to him. People's getting paid, man. Devin Booker got a contract. I think it was like $214 or $15 million, which I think is funny because a lot. You heard reports that when Kevin Durant said that he wants to go to Brooklyn or wants to go to Phoenix, they have to throw in Devin Booker, and it was like, hold up, let's secure Devin Booker. Yeah, 4-year max, $224 million. Damn. Karl Anthony Towns got a big contract. He got what did he get? He got like 200 and something. He got the max. Who else? Zion Williamson signed the rookie, I think 231 max from the Pelicans. Zach LaVine signed the max, $215 million max from the Bulls. One thing I did see outside of a couple people, players got the max got the most amount of money that they could to stay with their teams. Like I said, now Nikola Jokic wasn't a free agent, but neither was Devin Booker, or neither was Cat. But you saw Cat, Devin Booker, Nikola Jokic. You saw Zion Williamson. You saw Zach LaVine. A lot of players, most players stayed. Put Anthony Simon got 100 mil. Lou Dort got like 85 mil, I think. Bobby Portis is staying with the Milwaukee Bucks. Marvin Bagley, PJ Tucker is going to Philly, which I get his toughness, but the man's about to be 30. You give him a 3-year 40, and he's about to be a 3-year contract. Okay. Tyrus Jones, 30 mil. Gary Payton, I know Golden State lost Gary Payton and lost Otto Porter Jr. But Nurkic, I know he signed a deal to stay with Portland. So a lot of the big money that you've seen are players staying. Now, I do want to talk about Jalen Brunson getting $104 million from the Knicks. Again, you are what you're worth what you can negotiate. Do I think? Does anybody think outside of Jalen Brunson's camp in the Knicks that Jalen Brunson is worth $104 million? The answer to that question is no. For sure not. But one thing that the Knicks have struggled with is attracting playoff caliber point guards. Now, as we just saw, Jalen Brunson was big in the playoffs. I think he averaged like 22 points in the playoffs or whatever. Now, he was a little bit exposed against Golden State, but clearly Golden State won the championship. I do like to pick up for the Knicks. They also did re-sign Mitchell Robinson. So I like to pick up for the Knicks for Jalen Brunson. Of course, you bring an adult in the room, even though you do have adults, but you bring like a playoff laden point guard. Do I think that moves the needle? Which I also think is hilarious that they signed him shortly before Kevin Durant requested a trade. So now you really can't trade. Now I understand it would be extremely difficult for the Brooklyn Nets and New York Knicks to do a trade, but you can't really even trade them now. I mean, again, shouts out to Jalen Brunson for getting the money. Shouts out for the Knicks for giving him the money, but I will say this was outside of like the top 2 or 3 players, this was a very weak free agency draft. Like again, our free agency pool. Outside of Brad, outside of Zach LaVine, there really wasn't too many big free agents. I mean, there really wasn't any. So, and like I said, Brad, Zach LaVine, they stayed. So I understand if you want to swing for the fences and you get Jalen Brunson, do your thing. And I do like the fit for Jalen Brunson, but it's also crazy because they could have got Kyrie. Oh man, they could have got Kyrie. I don't know, man. But shouts out to Jalen Brunson and the Knicks for signing a $104 deal, $104 million deal. Let me not disrespect that man. I want to address something that. Why did I say address like he was talking about me? I want to talk about something that Tim Legler said about Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal signed the 5-year $251 million contract to stay with the Wizards for 5 more years. Supermax or the max, which pretty much people knew he was going to do. Now, if he would have went somewhere else, it would have been 4 years, 180, 190 something $million, compared to 5 years, 251. So there's a drastic difference. And Tim Legler said something that a lot of people have thought about Bradley Beal. I didn't realize that if Bradley Beal stays the entire 5 years of this contract, he would have been with the Wizards for 15 years. That's crazy. 15 years, and I think he's only been to the playoffs, twice? 3 times? And Tim Legler said he will go, he'll be playing in obscurity. He'll go down as one of the players that just played for obscurity. Now, yes, Bradley Beal is a very talented player, but I think that we've acknowledged and found out over the years that Bradley Beal is more of a complementary player than a focal point, meaning he's better as maybe a 2. He'll probably be the greatest 3 in the league, but he's better as a 2 or 3 instead of a 1. When I mean 1, I mean somebody that you can build a team around, like a Steph Curry, a Clay, not Clay, Kevin Durant. Those are 1s. But it also goes back it also goes back to what. Look, I understand that Washington kind of did themselves a disservice. I do agree with, I think, Zach Lowe when he said, if Washington was going to trade Bradley Beal, they should have done it 2 years ago when he was, leading the league, or back-to-back years leading the league in points. Like, his stock is at an all-time high. Now it's really hard to trade for him because the massive contract that he has, and people know that he's not really a 1. He's making 1 money, but he's not really a 1. So I understand Washington had to do this. Washington is a small market team. It's a team that you're not really going to attract big players. So when you have a player like Bradley Beal, you're going to want to keep him. You should try to keep him. So I get that. But what I think a lot of people don't understand, or fail to understand, is a lot of people, and I'm not saying this is Bradley Beal, but a lot of players' motive is not win a championship. It's to collect the most amount of money you can. And Bradley Beal sure as hell is doing that. Now, Bradley Beal still is a really good player. You can argue top 20, top 25 player in the league, but I don't make nearly. My yearly salary is not nearly as much as an NBA contract. But I couldn't imagine turning down $251 million. Now, of course, they could trade him. They could trade him. He could request a trade, So we'll see how it is. But shouts out to Bradley Beal for signing with Washington. I think as a Washington fan, you're happy. Like, I'm a Washington fan. Clearly, I'm from D.C. You're happy that Bradley Beal staying, but you also understand, unless they find a way to get like a Kevin Durant, got Bradley Beal. So got Kristaps Porzingis, got Kyle Kuzma. They did get Will Barton and Monte Morris, or not Monte Morris, the guard from Denver, Morris. I thought that was pretty good, but we'll see. But shouts out to free agency, man. It's still going on. Of course, we'll have to figure out or see what's going on or what happens with with Kevin Durant. That's a big domino piece now, so we'll see. But move forward. It's crazy that I've been talking for damn near an hour, probably longer than an hour, and we're just getting to the USC UCLA story, which is them moving from the Pac-12 going to the Big Ten. Now, people ask, why? Money. That's the only reason. Money and recruiting. The Big Ten is one of the, Big Ten. The Big Ten is one of the prime conferences that recruit on the West Coast. When you have, Maryland, Michigan State, Ohio State, those teams are, those are the teams that a lot of their players come from the West Coast. So, and if you look, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern, Purdue, Rutgers, most of those teams are in one region. So you go to the Big Ten, who is about to, by the way, get a huge contract from, TV deals, you have two West Coast teams, and a lot of these schools recruit from the West Coast. It's a win-win for UCLA and Michigan. UCLA and USC. Now, I do think that, of course, you understand that it's for money. You understand that it's for viewership. You understand that, now that they go to the Big Ten, and the Big Ten's about to get this huge contract from TV deals. It's going to be it's UCLA and USC were the quote unquote gold standard of the Pac-12, just like Texas and damn, I forgot the other team. Texas and Oklahoma were the mainstays for the Big 12. Now, what you're starting to see is, and I think Herbstreit kind of alluded to it, you're starting to see the big two. The big two, which is the Big Ten and the SEC. It doesn't matter the recent amount of success or the recent lack of success, because if you look, USC hasn't been that successful recently. UCLA hasn't been that successful recently, and honestly, Oklahoma, they did have Kyler Murray, they did have Baker Mayfield, but they haven't really won anything. And Texas ain't really they just been riding on name alone. But even still, even with their lack of success, USC and UCLA was the the most popular teams in the Pac-12. They, even with Oregon, how successful Oregon's been recently, USC and UCLA was the money makers for the Pac-12. Even with TCU being good, Baylor being good recently, Texas and Oklahoma was the money makers for the Big 12. And now that you're seeing those two, USC and UCLA going to the Big 10, and you see Texas and Oklahoma going to SEC, it's hard to see how there isn't going to be more movement. There isn't going to be, of course, we're waiting to see what happens with Notre Dame. So, and Notre Dame is independent, of course, in football. Now, I do know that their alliance, or their alliance, I guess, is with the ACC, seeing as though the basketball and every other sport in Notre Dame is ACC. But with the football, they could pretty much buy their way out of that. But it's starting to go to a big two, which is the Big Ten and the SEC. Because I don't know, unless another team comes out of nowhere, or multiple teams come out of nowhere, I don't see how the Pac-12 survives. I don't see how the Big Ten, the Big 12, they did get some more teams, but regionally, you get two teams from the West Coast now. This is huge for college football, man. This is huge for recruiting. This is huge money-wise. This is huge. The two most profitable Pac-12 schools or teams just left. The two most profitable Big 12 teams left. What do you think is going to happen after that? Now, I'm not saying it's only going to be the big two as Big 10 and Big or SEC, but that's what it's starting to look like. This is huge, bro. This is huge for recruiting. This is huge money-wise. This is huge for the conferences that are being left. Like I said, the Pac-12 said that they're shocked and disappointed. Hell yeah, they are. You just lost your two biggest revenue. It doesn't matter if they haven't been good for a while. You just lost your two biggest revenue schools. Everyone knows about UCLA. Everyone knows about USC. Man, look. This is also big for Big Ten schools. You have Michigan and Ohio State, but recruiting wise, now you have two huge players in SEC. I mean, no, two huge players in USC and UCLA. Now, UCLA and USC about to understand what it's like playing in playing in snow. But this is huge for recruiting, clearly. So this is a big seismic move. It wasn't for Kevin Durant saying Kevin Durant requesting a trade. This would be a bigger story. Of course, you have to see what happens moving forward, but this is big. This is big. So I don't see, even with Oregon and other teams, I don't see how the Pac-12 is already on its, I'm not gonna say last leg, but already leaps and bounds behind the SEC in the Big Ten as far as revenue, as far as popularity. A lot of their games come on at 10:30 at night on the East Coast, so they don't even get the same amount of visibility. So you lose your two biggest schools, and you're already struggling with visibility. You're already struggling with recruiting. You're already struggling with viewership. You're already struggling to keep up with the Big Ten, who has Michigan, who has Michigan State, who has Ohio State. You're already struggling keeping up with the SEC, who has Alabama, who has Auburn, who has Georgia, who just won a national championship. And then you lose your two biggest schools. I don't know. Just like I'm not sure how the Big 12 is going to fare once it's official that Texas and Oklahoma officially break off and go into SEC. I don't know. It's I don't know how the Pac-12 or Big 12 survive after that. We'll see clearly, but don't be surprised if a lot more teams from the Pac-12 and from the Big 10 merge and go other places, because they just can't sustain. So we'll see. And lastly, before we go, shouts out to Daniel Cormier and Khabib for being inducted in the UFC Hall of Fame. Daniel Cormier is one of the most decorated fighters, and Khabib, a lot of people have him in discussion as greatest UFC fighters of all time. So it's definitely, rightfully so, that they get inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's that sees John Bones Jones, I think's in it. George St. Pierre, he's in it. Not Roy Jones Jr. Forgot homie's name, but shouts out to Daniel Cormier and Khabib for being inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. Definitely deserving of it. So, and there you have it, man. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate you guys. If you want a Popular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve, joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Hey, you won't regret it. Also, please subscribe to whoever you're listening. Please subscribe to whoever you're watching. I'm trying to get the algorithms going. I'm trying to get more people to listen to the Unpopular Podcast, to watch it. And I can't do it without you guys' help. Please share. Please like. Please comment. We'll have, I talk to everybody that's in the comments. Just try to get the algorithms going. And I appreciate you guys for that. And until next time, much love.